From Relay FM, this is Connected, episode number 69. I am back from New York, and today's show is brought to you by Braintree, Casper, and Foot Cardigan. My name is Myke Hurley, and I am joined, as always, by Mr. Federico Vitici.
Hello, Myke.
Thank
Welcome
you, Federico,
back.
and Mr. Stephen Hackett.
Hey, guys.
I enjoyed listening to the show last week.
Good.
Oh, yeah? Thank you. Yeah? Sweet. Thank you, Myke. How was America? How was the land of the free?
It was pretty free. I felt free. Yeah, it was good.
You felt free? Okay. That's good to know, Myke.
I'm pleased that there wasn't too many references to my death, which is always good. Still a few.
You gotta assume you have died so many times already. It got pretty, tiring after a while.
If somebody ever wants to plot out the amount of ways that I met my untimely end when I've been missing from this show, I would appreciate that at some point, just so I can kind of understand.
Isn't there like a TV show about this, like 1,000 Ways to Die?
I think it's a YouTube thing.
No, it's also on TV.
Yeah, I think
in Italy.
they did with many YouTube shows, they turned it into a TV show.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Is it like Dumb Ways to Die or something?
Dumb. In Italy, it's called maybe 100 or maybe 1,000 Ways to Die. I don't know.
Right.
Anyway, there should be like 1,000 ways Myke dies or something.
I mean, that's horrible for me, though.
No, I mean in a sort of light-hearted way, like just for fun, just like in theory, I love you, Myke. I'm just trying to imagine all the possible options.
Stephen, can you please start the follow-up?
I would love to. So the first piece of follow-up is not so much follow-up as it is a continuation of our language discussion, and I'm going to squash all hopes that Federico is going to read something in some foreign tongue. But Derek wrote in and was very confused, Myke, about a word that you use while you speak and when you write. I've noticed in your writing as well. Would you like to tell us about this word choice of yours?
Whilst.
Yeah.
Which is, it's one of those words that when British people say them, they say them in varying ways. And when I say it, it just sounds like a sound that I'm making, which is whilst, as opposed to an actual word.
It's like the sound you make if someone like comes up behind you and like grabs you.
Yeah.
Like it's just sort of like the air coming out of you.
So I guess maybe I'll try and slow it down. Like it's like whilst, which is whilst. Maybe some people say whilst. I don't know, but it's effectively a different way of saying while. And again, I'm doing it again. While. How do you say that? The actual way Americans say it.
I say while, but I'm from the South, so who knows?
This is the worst podcast for any type of pronunciation. Because we're all wrong in our own beautifully distinct ways. Although everything that Federico says wrong is just more stunningly amazing.
Fine.
Yeah, it actually becomes more right than it was in the first place.
Well, in a very particular way.
This word, whilst, does mean the same as while, and it's just one of those words that fell out of American English. So they mean exactly the same thing, and Derek, who wrote in, provided a link for a kind of an explanation of this. But yeah, while and whilst mean the same thing, but they just kind of, the meaning remained the same, but the word changed as it went from correct English to American English.
Correct English.
I don't
Nice one, Myke.
We also have a blog post from listener Alistair speaking about the Mac App Store, and there was this leak by our friend Dan Council we talked about of all these apps that have left the Mac App Store, or maybe weren't even ever there to begin with. And Alistair kind of has a counterpoint of saying, well, there are a lot of apps that are there that he uses, and there's a bunch of good ones, like things like Evernote and 1Password and Tweetbot, PDF Pen Pro, Byword, OneNote, a lot of good OS X apps that are still in the App Store, and some of these are App Store only, like Tweetbot.
I noticed a common link between most of the really good apps that are in that list.
Right.
iCloud.
Yeah, because you have to be in the App Store to use iCloud for any sort of data store or syncing or anything. And so Tweetbot, of course, uses iCloud to sync things like mute list and red position and all that sort of stuff that makes it really seamless. put down your iPad, hook up your iPhone, and you're in the same place. And some of these apps are available outside of the App Store. Things like Evernote, I believe you can get directly from Evernote. I believe you can get 1Password and PDF Pen Pro directly. But it's a good post. You go check it out. But the question it leads me to is what you just touched on, Myke. If iCloud were available outside the App Store, is that holding a lot of these people there?
I reckon.
And I think it may be.
You think something like Tweetbot? I feel like at this point they would keep that outside the store, and all of the apps that sell maybe in both places would maybe keep it outside as well. I think it's clear from this list that you can see that there is a market on the Mac App Store for certain types of apps, like really high-profile apps like Evernote, and OneNote and stuff like that. It's good for them to be on the App Store because it's where maybe the most general of users will look for apps, right? Because it's the one place, it's in the dock. You'd want it to be there. And I think it definitely shows the Mac App Store isn't dead, but I think it, in an interesting way, also highlights that there is a really healthy market for the direct route as well, because it's half of our listeners' apps, right? It's split in half. And I think that's probably the same for quite a lot of our listeners.
Yeah, I definitely have a lot of stuff in my dock that comes from the Mac App Store, because again, that it's not a choice for some of these apps. That's a decision those developers have made that is right for their business. But again, it's just interesting that there's this sort of dual world where I imagine that you could just get by on stuff that's in the Mac App Store, and I'm sure that some users do. But I think something even as widespread as Microsoft Office, you've got to get outside. So I can't imagine the number of OS X users out there that are living completely within the Mac App Store. I just don't see that being a big section of the population.
You know what's interesting, I guess, as a thought experiment would be in an ideal state with a sort of parity between the Mac App Store and selling apps outside of the store. So imagine that you could choose between having all these types of apps, so Audio Hijack, Bartender, all these different powerful Mac apps on the Mac App Store, and at the same time you could also choose to have these apps outside of the Mac App Store but with the same benefits, such as iCloud. What would you choose? And personally, I would say with the same features with two options and the same product with no limitations, I would choose the Mac App Store just because it's easier. And so and I truly believe that buying from the Mac App Store presents an easier, mechanism for all kinds of people. And so that's why I believe it's such a shame that Apple isn't letting, the Mac App Store grow and accept different kinds of apps and, different kinds of business models, because technically it is a better system for people. It's easier, it's safe. You don't have to put in your credit card, multiple times over and over. It's integrated with the system. It's just old and limited, and it's not growing anymore. And that's why I think they're making a mistake here. It's okay. You got options. You can go to the website of a developer, but you don't get the same features and you don't get the same experience. And I know that, with two options in an equal state, I would always choose the Mac App Store. But right now, I can't. And, that's why I think it should be improved.
Totally agree.
Adrian also points out that Apple have trademarked the word AirPods, and this is probably on the back of the conversations last week about the removal or potential removal of the 3.5mm jack for headphones. And yeah, Apple patents and trademarks a ton of things, but I guess when you look at that word, AirPods, it does seem like a naming route that they would go down if they made Bluetooth headphones. But it doesn't mean they're going to do it.
Yeah, Apple has all sorts of patents and trademarks for all sorts of things, but I agree with you. The name would fall into their scheme pretty nicely. And I think at some point they may. I have the Federico. You have them too. I think is it the Power Beats, the Bluetooth Beats?
Oh no, I got the Bluetooth Beats Studio the wireless
That's
ones,
right.
And I got the Jaybird Blue Buds.
Jaybirds, that's what I'm thinking of. There are Beats has one as well. There are products now that are sort of wireless earbuds, and most of them have a cable in between them, and like the microphone ends up kind of behind your ear, and it doesn't really work all that well in the things that I've tried. So there are things like what this could be out there now. And again, there's this tension with now that Apple owns Beats of like, if Apple were to do this at some point, I think it'd be really far down the road. I think if they're going to Lightning, they're going to have Lightning earpods for the foreseeable future. But if they do offer some sort of Bluetooth option, I'm sure it would be an additional product. You know, Apple has always sold those the premium earbuds, or they have for a long time. I've got a pair of the originals somewhere. But now there's this tension where they own Beats as well. It's like, would Apple have a Apple branded AirPod type thing, and also the Beats wireless stuff and these other brand? Like, I don't know. It'll be interesting to see how that plays out.
Well, they've got to put something in the box in theory, right?
Maybe eventually, but I don't know.
I mean, but like that's why they might have AirPods and Beats. Like Beats won't be in the box.
Yeah, but I think if Apple drops the 3.5 millimeter jack, I don't think they're going to go straight to Bluetooth. I think they're going to step in between with Lightning earpods to keep from a cost perspective. And
yeah, I agree with that. I agree with that notion.
We'll see.
Yeah,
it'll be interesting either way.
Stephen, you did something which I think is very expected, but I think is unexpected for you.
This is the part of the show where we talk about what we bought, because we are all three weak.
You are the weakest currently.
Soft-boned young men.
Open-walleted.
Is that a phrase we're going to use now?
It is now.
Yeah, so, I picked up like the 32 gig iPad Pro just to check it out, spend some time with it, try to understand it, eventually get around to writing a review when I have time. And I had to return it because these things have a return policy. And at some point I'm going to get flagged for doing stuff like this, but I haven't yet. And I went back to my iPad Air 2 for a couple of weeks and was immediately pretty cramped on the Air 2 and felt like it was sort of the wrong size. I mean, if you remember back when Myke Was Right started, and a lot of that sort of took off bigger than just our show with CGP Grey, and like the conversation that the iPhone 6 for him, and I think for me too, and for you guys, sort of the wrong size phone. Like the 5S is really nice, and the Plus is really nice, but the 6 kind of sits in this weird in-between spot. And I kind of am beginning to feel that way about the Air 2. I still think Apple was right to start with that size. I think was it 9.7-inch display. Makes a lot of sense for a lot of people. But for me, it's just sort of the wrong size now, where I want to do this multitasking and side-by-side stuff. And it's just all, especially with the keyboard up, very cramped on the Air 2. Where the iPad mini, which I've also been using, my kids have one, and I've been using it, and actually there's a lot to like about the iPad mini still. That stuff is so cramped on there, it doesn't make any sense. So I'm still using, if I pick up their iPad mini for something, I'm doing one app at a time. But the Pro and the Air 2 feel just like extremely different devices. And so I ended up going back and getting the 128 gig Pro because 32 gig is too small for me. And I really wish there was a 64 gig so I didn't have to buy the most expensive one. But that's life. So I've got it. It's in my bag. I've been setting it up as new from like a clean start, not restoring my backup, which is nice. And so it's my iPad of choice for the next year.
Welcome to the new club. I don't know what this one is. Maybe this is Teachy is right. I don't know. But
so I had thoughts about that because I think the Myke Was Right era is coming to a close. You know, with the end of the year, it can be very
It's going to carry on. Remember, 18 months.
No, right? Why? It's not the
how
year.
Long Luigi. The year of Luigi was 18 months.
We're not using the year of Luigi as a measurement unit, Myke.
I would like to.
In space stuff, they just basically make up measurements. So you have the astronomical unit, which is the distance between the Earth and the Sun, which means nothing to anybody but humans, right? Like it's 1 AU away. That's not a thing.
Don't all measurements mean nothing to anybody but humans?
Well, it's you have to listen to Liftoff and find out if they're aliens this week. But so I agree with Federico. The year of Luigi seems like a weird measuring stick. But I also don't think that Myke was right. Like at some point it has to shift, and I think it's Federico's turn to pick up the mantle So I second the motion that it is the year of Tichy. And I think we'll go with that for 2016.
I bet he takes 18 months, though.
Maybe.
Well, yeah, because I'm better than you, Myke.
Well, it's just, you're
I'm
Italian,
sorry,
you got the Italian plumbers going on,
You know Myke edits this show, right? That's just going to be gone from the edit.
Or just a long beep.
It's gonna make me sound awful. No, Myke, I think you've done a pretty good job with 2015.
Yeah.
Many of your opinions have been right.
Yeah, it's been a good year, I must say. I can see that, it feels like if you're ever going to stop it, the turn of the year makes sense.
Yeah,
Talking about buying things, I have actually finally purchased a smart keyboard.
Oh, yeah?
Huh.
It is currently 15 minutes away from my home. A man called Tony has it in a van and he's driving it and I'm tracking him.
You should get Tony on the podcast when he shows up.
I'll take the microphone downstairs and be like, how has your journey been today, Tony?
Can you really?
No, I would have to take my entire computer with me.
Or just buy a really long XLR cable.
I haven't got the time to get that.
Or
in 15
invite
minutes.
Tony upstairs.
There is no world in which Tony knocks on my door and I say, come to my bedroom, in that he is going to do that, is he? Right? That is a whole other different show. That is not this show.
Wow. So we have one last piece of follow-up, and this is a question we've been asking ourselves for a while now. Is Google Docs updated for iOS 9 yet?
No. Drive is, right? This has been established. Drive is. So we know it's coming, right? That is the good
As is
theory.
Chrome, right?
As is Chrome. But Google Drive being updated is kind of the first piece of that puzzle because that's the whole suite. So fingers crossed. Any day now. I really would like that day to be now, though. But it's coming.
Yeah, this is just incredible, right? I mean, it's been, 2-3 months?
But this was what it was like when they were updating for the 6 Plus.
Well, it doesn't mean it's right. It's a stupid policy.
I'm
to
not
wait
saying
this
it's a
long.
good thing. I'm just saying it's their thing.
Yeah, it's unsurprising and it's always disappointing. I mean, it's Google. It's not like we're asking some dude in, some country, with limited resources to update a suite of apps for an iOS. It's a big, huge company. I really don't understand why they're doing this.
It feels political to me.
Okay, if it's political, then it's just bad for users.
Yeah.
I mean, you can have, the ideas that you want to have, but doesn't mean it's right for people like us or people in general, I mean, it's just you use the app on the iPad Pro and it's awful. And what's even worse is that I don't want to switch to something else because I know I enjoy the benefits of Google's approach. It's all in one system, one account. I got my Gmail, I got my Google Docs, I got my Google Calendar. I don't want to switch to something else. I know that I got options. I could use, other services for document collaboration. I just don't want to switch. And so I'm left here complaining alone, basically, with you too. So I'm in good company, but we don't have a good app. So
Federico, you are not alone. I am here with you.
Thank you, Myke. Thank you.
This week's episode is brought to you by Braintree, code for easy online payments. If you're a mobile app developer, check out Braintree. They are the payment solution used by so many apps that I expect at least a couple of are on your iPhone and you probably use quite frequently. Apps like Uber, Airbnb, Hotel Tonight, Living Social, Munchery, and many, many more use Braintree. So if you've ever paid for something, think how easy it is to pay in Uber. Or you don't even need to think about it. That's because of Braintree. Braintree has made the payment experiences in all of these apps totally seamless. And now you can add a similar experience to your own app as well. With excellent customer service and simple integrations, Braintree gets you ready to receive your payments super easily and super quickly. Braintree's continuous support plus fast payouts means that you'll be prepared as your company grows from your first dollar to your billionth. Braintree is also helping solve the problem of mobile card abandonment by offering a best-in-class mobile checkout experience. And as I said before, the experiences that they provide are super magical. They're seamless, and they make your favorite apps sing. Now, you can add a similar experience to your own apps as well. Braintree will provide you with a full-stack payment solution, support for all payment types that your customers might want, including PayPal, Apple Pay, Bitcoin, Venmo, cards, and many more with just one single integration. It's with you and your customers across all platforms, and Braintree has superior fraud protection, fantastic customer service, and really importantly, fast payouts to make sure that you get the money that your business needs to help you grow. That's very important when you're accepting payments for stuff. You just want them to come in quickly so you can put that money to good use. To learn more and for your first $50,000 in transactions fee-free, go to braintreepayments.com/connected. Thank you so much to Braintree for their support of this show. So just before we kick into some topics this week, we have a couple of interesting topics, to say the least. We launched membership at Relay FM yesterday as we record this. Basically, a Relay FM membership, it comes with a bunch of cool little perks, and they're available across all the different tiers that we have. So every year, we're going to do some bonus episodes that will coincide with Relay FM's birthday in August. So there'll be bonus episodes of all of your favorite shows, and we'll be doing some fun stuff for those. There's going to be a monthly behind-the-scenes newsletter, which kind of will go into detail about some of the stuff that we're doing at Relay FM, and you'll get some cool little tidbits, and Stephen's going to be putting that together for you every month. Also, you can get 15% off anything in our merchandise store. So buttons, stickers, and Relay FM t-shirts, you'll get 15% off any of this and all of it for being a Relay FM member. We have a bunch of different ways that you can become a member of Relay FM. There are 3 different tiers. We have the silver tier at $5 a month, the gold tier at $10 a month, or you can pay annually for $100 a year. We'd love it if you'd go and become a member of your favorite shows. You can become a member of any of the shows. So, for example, if you really love Connected, which I'm sure that you do, you should become a member and give Connected some money. Or if you love all of the shows that we have at Relay FM, you can do that. You can become a member and support all of your favorite shows, and money will be given to all of the hosts of Relay FM. So we give as much money as we can to the hosts of the shows. So when you become a member and you choose which shows you want to support, as outside of transaction fees, we'll be giving all of the money to the hosts. So if you really do love 1 or 2 shows more than all the others, you should try and support them, because then more money will go to your favorite hosts. So please go check that out at relay.fm/membership.
It's a way to have our hosts be rewarded a little bit more for the time they put in. We're still going to be an advertising-focused business. That's the way that this industry works, and it works well for us. But this is a way to show support directly to the hosts that you enjoy. And I'm excited. I've joined as a member for a couple shows, and I guess the perks will be a little less exciting for me since I create them. But other than that, I'm really glad to be helping out some hosts directly. So it's super cool. Go check it out. It'd be awesome to have you on board.
You bet.
Yeah.
All right. So Apple provided us with some fantastic topic fodder today.
It was like an hour ago.
Yeah.
I was dropping my kids off for the day with some friends, and was like, oh yeah, let me just. I was sitting in traffic. I was like, let me just open up, see what's going on. And it's like, oh, I'm waiting for this train to pass by. I'm just sitting at the train crossing and reading this iPhone battery case news. And I had the sudden urge to hurl my phone into the moving train. That was my sort of gut level response to this.
So for some reason, and that is my overall feeling about this, for some reason, Apple have created a battery case just for the iPhone 6 and 6S, not the Plus.
Yeah, not the Plus.
And it does a few different things. It gets you an additional 18 to 25 hours of battery life. That's kind of the main thing. When you put the case on, it helps boost your antenna signal with some integrated antennas or something.
Yeah,
cool. And I guess that's kind of it. It's a silicone case. It's all integrated in one. There's only one piece. And it is god-awful ugly, right? What is happening here? So this is one of those things. I'm looking at this product, and I urge you to go to the show notes. There'll be a link to the store so you can go check it out for yourself. And what we have here is a silicone case, like the regular silicone cases, with a huge backpack on it or something. It's got this little brick that sits on the back, which is the battery. And you can kind of see what they were trying to do, right? They wanted to have one piece, and if you want to have a battery, and batteries are rigid, you can't have one piece, so they made a silicone case, and they obviously couldn't have the battery fill up the whole thing, so there's this area where you fold it back, and you push the phone in, and you fold it back over again. So, in theory, that is an interesting way to solve this problem, but there are many avenues to go down when talking about this. The first one is the fact that it just doesn't look good at all.
It looks like a pregnant iPhone.
That's a great way of putting it. It's like there's a baby iPhone inside there. So obviously it's not the full size yet because it's only a baby iPhone.
There's an original iPhone
if they did make one for the 6 Plus, it would be the size of a 4.
Yeah.
So I have a thought that and I don't really think this, but the thought crossed my mind that maybe they just had like a barge full of extra iPod Touch batteries, and that's what's inside this thing. And they're like, well,
they had to come from somewhere, right? Like, where did those batteries come from? Maybe that's it.
So either like Phil Schiller can build a fortress for his kids out of these, or we can glue it into the silicone case and we can sell it for $100. Like, so it gets weirder because according to The Verge and some other reviews, this case can't take your phone from a 0 to 100% charge.
Yeah, and you also can't choose when to do it. It just does it itself.
So like all of that combined, like with the weird design, like if they made the whole back a battery, like the Mofis do, could you get from 0 to 100%? Could you go from 0 to 100 and then a little bit more? Even like some of these cases do.
The Mofis do. So yeah.
And so like that's why I think like in the like sort of jokey part of my brain that this whatever's inside this thing, and I'm sure iFixit will take it apart in about 5 minutes, that this is a part that we already know about, and they're just like, oh, let's just put it in a case.
If this is an iPod Touch battery, if they find a way of doing that, then Federico loses the year of Federico and it goes to Stephen.
I think so.
Sorry, Federico.
Very short-lived.
I've already lost. Oh, God.
We've all lost something today.
That escalated really quickly.
And, maybe, and I don't know if Apple has said anything about this. I mean, maybe the thought is that, hey, this thing, because it's silicone, it's going to be easier to pick up. One thing I don't like about some of the battery cases, especially some of the cheaper ones, they're like that hard, slick plastic, and it's kind of hard to hold on to. The Mofi, I think, has got a soft touch finish, which is nice. But maybe the thought is, hey, it's easier to pick up, it's easier to hold, like you kind of have a place for your fingers to go on either side of this battery hump. But either way, like it's not good looking at all. Man, I'm looking at this like 360-degree view on the store, and it's sort of hard to believe that this is real.
Yeah, it doesn't look good, but I read a couple of reviews this morning, and especially the one from Joanna Stern. Quite a few people saying that it's not sexy at all, it's ugly, but it's comfortable to hold, even more so than a Mofi. So I don't own a Mofi. I don't know what you guys are talking about. I mean, I do know what you're talking about. I don't have any hands-on experience. But I read from these reviews that because it's thinner, at the top and bottom edges, and the battery, the basically the bulge is in the middle of the case, it's more comfortable than other battery cases.
Yeah, I can see that. And I can see that that's probably the reason that they did it. But what you end up with is something that doesn't look good.
No, it doesn't look good.
And then there are like, the weird parts of it. It's like, okay, you made a battery case and then made the battery small so it doesn't actually do a full charge from 0 to 100. But the biggest part about all of this, so let's park the way it looks for a bit, is Apple have made a battery case. What does that say?
So a lot of people are saying, well, this is Apple making some sort of statement that they understand that the iPhone 6 battery life is not what people want.
No, I don't think they care about that, right?
I don't think they care about it either. I think that this falls in line with Apple's more traditional approach towards accessories, where they, for a long time, Apple's made. They made like this $100 leather iPod case they introduced with the iPod Hi-Fi, which was gorgeous. I think I sold one of them in 3 years at the Apple Store. Like, it's didn't sell. They've made iPhone and obviously iPhone cases for a long time now. I think they look at the market and they see what's popular, and they if there's a thing they can move into and they think they can do it well, then they do it. And I think maybe they missed the mark on this. I don't think this particular battery case has problems. But I don't think it's like a political statement about the iPhone 6/6S battery life. Now, the flip side of that coin is there's not one for the Plus. So if they are saying the 6/6S battery life isn't good enough, are they saying the Plus is good enough? Like, then it sort of gets weird. But I just think they look at the accessory market and they think, hey, we can move into this space. And I'm sure they're going to sell a bunch of these things because they're in the Apple Store and they got the logo on it. But that doesn't make it less weird to me that they've done this sort of thing in the past.
Yeah, I wonder why there's no 6 Plus option. I mean, is it because it's too big otherwise, or because Apple seems to implicitly say, you got the 6 Plus, so you got plenty of battery, you don't need a case? I kind of would like to see a 6 Plus option, just mainly out of curiosity to check it out. I don't think I'm gonna use this thing daily, but I feel like there's no particular statement about, we're doing this so you people can understand the real motivation. I don't think there's any subtext here about Apple making statements about battery. It's just about the money, Apple knows that quite a few people are going to buy a battery case from Apple, especially because it's on apple.com. It'll likely have a more prominent position in the Apple stores, and it's a problem common enough that people are this is gonna make for a great Christmas present, I feel like. And even if it's not maybe the best option, even if it doesn't get you from 0 to 100, I feel like Apple is gonna sell a lot of these, and it doesn't matter if it looks ugly, it matters for us, but most people just want some extra battery. And I've seen people put the craziest accessories on their iPhones just to get a little extra protection or battery. So it doesn't surprise me if this case is going to sell a lot of units.
Sure, but if you allow me to be that guy for a minute, right?
Yeah.
The whole thing about the iPhone battery life not changing over the years.
No. Yeah, I agree with
Apple
that.
Their kind of line on it is that this is the amount that you need, right? That's we stick to this level because we believe this level was the level that people need in their daily life. If you believe that, battery cases don't need to exist, but now you're making one. Selling them in the stores, like selling Mofis in the stores, you're kind of budging up against that line, but it's kind of okay because you can be like, this is an accessory that people are looking for. We allow these things to be made by the MFI program, so we put them in our stores. But actually taking the time to develop, design, manufacture, and sell your own one is a whole different scenario when you are the company that can control the battery life in the phone. It all just is a little weird, and all it does is it makes us mad because we all want more battery life in our phones. And I don't know. You was talking about this last week, Federico, actually, and I was talking back to my iPhone a little bit. When you were saying about how, we want the phones to stay as they are and then Apple make them thinner. We complain, but then get used to the thinness and then we're happy with it. And I kind of agree with that, right? I like that they're thinner, but I really didn't feel like it needed to be thinner the last time. And it really doesn't need to be thinner than this. If they make it thinner, you get used to it and you like it. But do you need your next iPhone to be thinner than your current one? If you look at it right now, if they came out with the iPhone 7 and it was the same thickness, would that annoy you?
I don't know, but it's not a matter of being annoyed by sameness. It's being surprised by difference.
Yeah, but the main surprise is the battery life is the same again.
I don't know. Would you switch an hour of battery life for a sexier phone?
But they all
I
good.
know I would choose battery life myself, but I'm gonna sound stupid for saying this, but a lot of people buy iPhones for the way they look, just because it's an iPhone and just because it's sexy and new. I'm sorry, but that's just, you're not gonna hear this kind of opinion on tech podcasts and tech blogs. But a lot of people buy an iPhone just because it looks good.
You can make it look new without making it thinner, though, right? You can do a different case design, but
I'm
thinner
just saying,
doesn't have to be one of those things. I know the argument that you're making. I can see where you're coming from.
Yeah.
But it was just something that I wanted to give that opinion, and obviously, unlike regular listeners, I can force my opinions into the show, which I just did. But yeah, all of this it's really strange. All of this is just very strange to me. And if you couple this with that Apple Watch charger, the Apple accessory game, from a design perspective, is real peculiar right now.
Yeah, it's bizarre world. That charger is really strange. I wonder too, why, if you're gonna sell an accessory like this, and I'm sure they hope that it does well, it's actually a little rare in the Apple world that it is actually relatively priced pretty competitively. Yes, you can go get battery cases. There's one like Amazon right now that's a lot cheaper, but if you're gonna buy a name brand battery case, you're gonna spend $70, $80, $100.
Yeah. They are that amount of money, but they do have bigger batteries in there.
That's true, and they don't look like whatever this thing looks like. But it is a strange time.
If you had to choose, would you be on a desert island with the new iPhone case or with the magic mouse and the lightning connector at the bottom?
That doesn't bother me so much. And it's the same like people are saying about like the pencil, charging in the iPad. But like I said, whilst that is inelegant, that is actually really useful that it charges that way, because you're using the thing. This has happened to me. It happened to me like 2 days ago. I'm using it and I get a little notification that says your pencil has 5% of battery life. So I'm like, great, just pop it in the side for like 5 minutes, and it was like at 70% or something crazy like that. I was like, great, perfect. Rather than me having to go and find somewhere to plug it in. Like that one, I'm totally on board with that one. Like it is weird, inelegant, kind of dangerous for everyone, but it makes a lot of sense. And the thing is, when you're using a battery case, I think you understand what's going on here. Like, if I ever use a Mophie, it's like, right, I'm using this thing. My phone is now bigger than it should be. I'm okay with that because I'm getting the battery life. I don't know if you necessarily need to make it so it's like, oh, it still feels kind of like I'm just wearing a case and I have battery. Like, because then you put the thing on the desk and you press the home button and the thing really flips over and hits you on the back of the hand. Like, it's going to be all kinds of weird. But they did what they had to do.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess the upside of this case and like this other stuff that Apple's doing is they can tie like the case to iOS in some interesting ways, but there's even some drawbacks there. But like, I think at the end of the day, if someone is going to like buy a new iPhone or buy a battery case or buy a watch charger, like looks do matter. And it's troubling that these are now 2 accessories in a row from Apple that don't look very good, and I think our collective opinion. But is like having this battery meter in the notification center, is that enough to sell this over a Mophie? Like, I'm not sure that it is. I'm sure some people will buy it, but I think at the end of the day, it's not gonna like. Kyle's the Gray just tweeted something. Remember when getting Sherlocked by Apple was a bad thing? Now it's just marketing for your superior product.
That's a really good insight there from
yeah.
Gray.
He's a real thought leader in the technology space. But I like that idea that like I think it's well said that this isn't. And maybe you can never really say it about Apple accessories. I don't think Apple accessories were ever like leading the charge. Like their cases now are nice, but there are better cases out there. Their keyboards and mice are nice, but there are arguably better keyboards and mice out there. So maybe this just falls in line in the tradition of like, if you want something Apple made, we sell it and it does some kind of cool stuff others can't do, but there's trade-offs. But if you want something that's more powerful or works in a different way than Apple thinks, so look, there's lots of third-party ones.
But what if you just want something nicer? I'm not trying to justify what Apple is doing here. I think it looks ugly. But what if you want something that feels nicer in this case? I mean, it's...
Yeah, and that's clearly an angle they're going for, right? Like all those reviewers saying it, like that is something that Apple has gone for, and it seems like they've done that. If it feels nice in your hand, like that is a very important metric to a lot of people.
Yeah.
And so I think it's just trade-offs, and it kind of depends on the priorities that you have. If I'm going to buy a battery case, I want like the most battery I can stuff into a case, and so this isn't going to be for me. But
it reminds me, and forgive me if I'm going to bring headphones into the discussion, just briefly. It reminds me of how many people make fun of me every time I tweet about liking my Beats headphones. I know I have better options, and there's plenty of better headphones, but I just, besides liking the fun sound of the Beats headphones, with the bass that's higher than normal, they just look cool and they just look nice. And you may be like, oh, I'm not going to spend my dollars on headphones just because they look nice. Yes, I will spend my euros in this case on headphones that look nice because I want to wear my headphones also if I'm in public, I'm whatever I am. And I don't want to look like a stupid human robot with a bunch of huge headphones on my ears. There's an argument to be made about the fact that technology isn't just about tech specs, and I feel like that's kind of obvious, but when you read these reviews and you hear most podcasts, I want to be the guy who brings the fashionable aspect into the discussion. I wanna spend my money on something that it's not the best technological option, but maybe feels nicer or looks nicer. Is that stupid? Maybe. So I'm happy to be stupid. That's my conclusion.
I have to just wrap this conversation up by just pointing out something that I noticed on the case page, like in the highlights section, like where they'll say like, oh, internet use up to 18 hours in LTE, that kind of thing. One of the highlights is designed by Apple.
That's like not even words.
It's like product benefit. We designed it. There's your product benefit right there.
Yeah.
This week's episode is also brought to you by Casper, an online retailer of premium mattresses that you can grab yourself for a fraction of the price of what you'll usually find in stores. Buying a mattress is a peculiar thing to do. You go to a store, you speak to people at the store, there's a bunch of beds in a big room with lots of other people in them, and you're wearing your shoes and your coat, and you sit on the bed, and maybe you lay down on the bed, just on top of it, maybe for like 2 minutes or so, and then maybe your partner lays down on the bed next to you, and you decide, yes, this is the mattress that I'm going to spend the next 30 years on. That's how you make that decision. Then you pay a really, really high price and you leave and they bring it to you. And then you have to try and fight to get it up the stairs. That is how buying a mattress has always been in the past. This is what Casper is changing, and they're doing it in a great way. Casper mattresses are fantastic. They provide resilience and long-lasting supportive comfort. Casper have created their own mattress. It's one of a kind, a new hybrid that combines premium latex foam with memory foam. They bring these two technologies together for better nights and brighter days. It has just the right sink and just the right bounce. It's obsessively engineered at a shockingly fair price. For example, you can get yourself a twin-size mattress for $500, a full-size for $750, a queen for $850, and a king for $950. All Casper mattresses are made in America. Usually you would be paying well over $1,500 for a mattress, but you can see how fantastically priced Casper's mattresses are. And it doesn't end there. The best thing about Casper is their risk-free buying period. So you go online, you go to casper.com/connected. You want to go to that website because that's what you want to do. And you want to check it all out, and you find a mattress that you like, you find the right size, and you buy it online. And they ship it to you in a box, which is super easy to get upstairs. And you open the box, and you bring the mattress out, you kind of open it up from its vacuum packing, and it breathes into life. You then get to sleep on that bed for 100 days. They will deliver it to you for free, and if you're not happy, you can return it for free as well. It's that simple. Lying on a bed for a couple of minutes is a weird way to buy something you're going to sleep on for the next 10 years. You want to sleep on it in your own home, in your own pajamas, and understand exactly what it feels like to sleep on this bed every day. And you get to do that with a 100-day risk-free return period. It is that simple. Listeners of this show can get $50 towards any mattress purchase by visiting casper.com/connected and using the code CONNECTED at checkout. That's casper.com/connected and use the code CONNECTED at checkout. Terms and conditions apply. Please see the site for details. Thank you so much to Casper for their support of this show and Relay FM. So I feel like we kind of knew that this was coming, but nevertheless, it is sad that it has happened. Dropbox announced yesterday that they're killing Carousel. Boo! Oh, we're so sad. Oh, and Mailbox.
Yeah. Tell us about your feelings, Myke.
My feelings are very complex. I knew this was coming. It was obvious to me, right? Mm-hmm. The app wasn't being updated, and there was no real product direction. Nothing seemed to be happening. But it was one of those things that even though I knew it was coming, I didn't want to let go. Because I love Mailbox. I've grown to my kind of workflows into Mailbox. The whole system of moving email around in lists, which I haven't found any other app that does that, which I love. So I kind of just move around the things that are most important. I physically move them around so I don't lose things. I snooze emails quite a lot. That's all going away because Mailbox is going away. And it isn't this scenario isn't like when an app usually is killed, where like it will work, it will just continue to work, and then one day it will stop working. But if you really don't want to let go, you can at least hold on to it for a little while longer, right? Because it won't be broken until iOS updates break it. But a lot of Mailbox's features are done server-side, like the snoozing and stuff like that. And on February the 26th, they're just killing all of that. So everything you have snoozed will just appear in your inbox again, and all of that stuff is just gonna break. So let's get back to Mailbox in a minute, because there's a bigger discussion there about kind of why email apps seem to be basically impossible to survive on iOS. I want to talk about Carousel. Why did that exist? Why did Carousel exist at all?
I think there was a minute before our show killed the entire industry that photo services looked like they were going to be a thing that people were interested in. And we had Everpix and all these other companies that, again, we accidentally shut down. And I think Dropbox saw that and said, Dropbox was in a unique position at the time because they already had storage infrastructure in place. That famous Everpix sort of like big article after they went away that was in The Verge. Basically, their company boiled down to, we can't pay our AWS bill. Dropbox already had that well in hand. They already had a lot of syncing and file management tools available to them. And so I think from Dropbox's perspective, it was sort of an obvious, I don't want to say easy, I'm sure it was a difficult project, but a sort of natural evolution of the Dropbox product to say, hey, we're going to have a sort of sidecar app that is really based around photos and viewing your photos and storing them and backing them up to Dropbox and doing all that stuff. And it was actually really nice. And I think that with things like iCloud Photo Library and LOL and Photos on the Mac and Windows is doing some interesting photo management stuff these days, even though no one ever talks about it. I think that it just sort of like, it was a thing that was going to happen on the internet and then it wasn't. And I think it was just something that, Dropbox didn't get their business. It didn't make sense to keep putting money into. But I think at the time, I think it made a lot of sense. And I was excited by it. I was on all the betas. I used it for a long time. It was a really nice product, but then it just didn't go anywhere. And I think they were right to let it go if that's indeed the case.
But it was a funny one, right? Because nothing ever happened. They put it out there and they said they were going to kind of continue building it, but they didn't really.
They released a couple of updates. No, they didn't really change anything. It was just a bunch of minor additions. And it was like, I guess the big problem for these kind of services was Apple and Google jumping into the game with iCloud for Library and Google Photos. And I feel like those two companies alone kind of killed the need for a third-party storage services for photos, because a lot of people just want to take pictures and let the device take care of the pictures in the cloud. And you can do that with iCloud on an iPhone. You can do that with Android with Google Photos automatically. And so it's become a problem, for these companies. We've seen Everpix, we've seen Loom, which became Carousel under Dropbox, and the Picture Life is another example.
Is that still around?
It's around. It's been acquired by another company that also does something kind of like Plex for media on your own server, I think. I don't even remember the name, but it's something about media. It's like not just pictures, but also music and movies, that kind of stuff. So that's not really around anymore, basically. And it's become a problem for if you're a third party and you wanna build a service on top of, storing pictures for people when people have better, more native options on their devices. So I would say launching Carousel, it was mostly a problem of bad timing for Dropbox, because just like a year, 2 years later, it sort of, I don't want to say it became useless, because if there's plenty of use cases for storing pictures in Dropbox and having a better browsing interface, but does it justify having a separate team and a separate product? Does it help Dropbox get more customers? I think that's the question that Dropbox was asking themselves. Does having Carousel and Mailbox help us get more people to use our service, especially when Dropbox is in a kind of difficult phase that they want to kind of sell the product to more business customers and they want to get more users? I feel like it's the right choice to get rid of this, but it's still sad, especially because Mailbox was an excellent product. But if you read the message that they have shared in the blog post, and I think in an email to customers, maybe they have kind of given up on email. They're basically saying we want to solve other problems that generate email in the first place. So we don't want to solve email anymore, and we're gonna focus on paper, which is arguable again, but still they have basically given up on reinventing email and reinventing photo management.
All right, so I mean, we can probably assume that they killed Carousel because I expect there probably wasn't anybody using it. But maybe Mailbox wasn't growing, but I'm sure it still had a relatively large user base.
I guess the question is, would you start using and paying for Dropbox just because of Mailbox?
No, you wouldn't.
Yeah, and that's a problem for Dropbox.
So why did they buy it?
I have no idea. Because people change, Myke. Because strategies change.
It's teaching me something about life here today.
Yeah, I guess that maybe 2 to 3 years ago, they kind of had this vision, and now it didn't work out, so let's just kill the app.
Yeah, I always had the thought in the back of my mind that Dropbox could become an iCloud-like deal. I mean, they already had the file stuff. Maybe they have... Like, there were rumors a long time ago that Mailbox was also going to include an email service, and then, like, adding contact and calendar sync to that, like, is not too far-fetched. Like, for a minute, you could kind of get the feeling that Dropbox was going to make a move in becoming, like, a consumer sort of cloud company in sort of a new way from where they were. But I think since then, to Federico's point, the ground has shifted, and I think with Dropbox Pro and Dropbox for Business, which is actually a really compelling, like, it's nice. Like, I've got clients who are on it. I've got friends who use it at work. It seems really great. I think that's where they realize where the money is. And so they're pursuing that as opposed to this other vision. And, Mailbox got caught in the crossfire of that, it seems like.
So they bought it, screwed up. Why did they kill it? Why didn't they sell it or let somebody take it? Like, the tech is there, right? They could have just sold it on. Do you think they just couldn't be bothered?
Maybe we could take it over.
Oh my God, can you imagine? Connected mail?
I know, like, a little bit of CSS. That's enough to keep a email client up, right?
Yeah, it's all web views.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe they just don't care about discontinuing the product. Or maybe they want to reuse some of the tech in an upcoming product or services or features like paper. I don't know, but maybe they have there must be I don't want to believe they're not selling it because they don't want to, like, out of spite. Maybe they have some kind of reason. Maybe they want to, although I do know that a lot of people left the Mailbox team at Dropbox, but maybe they want to reuse the technology somewhere else. That's the only possible reason I can think about.
What could you use though? Like, it's email technology. I understand where you're coming from, but it's like, what could you do with that?
No idea, Myke. Organization of stuff into lists? I don't know.
It's just frustrating, right? Like, the whole thing is just real frustrating.
I kind of want to hear from your perspective what you're gonna do exactly.
Man. Do you know, I actually don't know. Like, so I have a plan, right? But
okay.
But the plan means I have to completely rethink the way that I use email.
So it's not really a plan. It's more like giving up.
Like, I have the practicals, but I don't have the overall thinking. So, like, I'm going to use Outlook on iOS because I was starting to use it more anyway because Mailbox on the iPad Pro was horrible, like, just horrible. So I'm starting to use Outlook more there. And that app is pretty good, and it's got most of what I want. The one thing that it has that I won't be using is the snoozing feature. So that they have one, so you can take an email and you can say, "Remind me about this on Monday" or whatever, which I like. But that doesn't sync with any desktop client because the Outlook desktop client is not only horrific but doesn't have that feature because they're different, right? You got the iOS ones and the Mac ones; they're completely different code bases. They came from different places. So I'm gonna have to get rid of the idea of snoozing email. But I think maybe more importantly for me, though, is the reordering. I really like that, and I can't do that anymore. Because what I'm most likely going to do with snoozing stuff is just get rid of the email. Like, I'm just going to just get used to dealing with it, right? When it comes in, I'm just going to have to deal with it, sort it and file it. Because a lot of snoozing that I would do is, like, say, for example, I got feedback for Connected on Thursday. I don't need that until at least Monday. So I would snooze it until Monday and then pick it up and deal with it. So what I'm going to have to do now, most likely, is set up, like, filters and folders and stuff, and then just know to go in and check them. But that's not an elegant solution. Like, waking up on Monday morning and having the Connected feedback or whatever in my inbox is perfect, because on that day, I'm going to go and write up the documents. So could you see how, like, I built a workflow around it all?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to have to change all of that. And that's the hardest part of it all, is changing it all. So today I have mail.app. I opened up mail.app and I want to cry about it. I hate mail app. And I'm maybe going to try some other stuff. I saw this desktop app, a link to it floating around, called Polymail, which looks kind of pretty. Mm-hmm. And I think I'm going to get on their alpha. So
look at you, horrific. All fancy and testing betas and alphas.
I was just tweeting about it, and they said send me your email address.
Nice. I think you're gonna be interested in trying the. I've been working on this review about To Do. The iOS task manager, and they have this upcoming email integration. It's detailed on the To Do website. You can read about the product. I think I don't know if it'll work for you. I definitely think you're gonna be interested in that kind of feature. But you will be able to read more details soon, Myke and Stephen.
I'm interested to see, but I don't know how I feel about changing my task list manager, because the email app that I use has gone away.
Yeah, I know.
But we'll see. I mean, like, it's too much change, man.
New year, new resolutions, Myke. So you gotta make it a goal of the next year to reimagine your life around email and tasks. That's a funny goal. That's a fun way to start the year. Email and tasks. Well, what could be better, Michael?
Oh yeah, it sounds fantastic.
Mm-hmm. I can feel you're so frustrated by this news.
Because it's annoying. It's really annoying.
Yeah. No. I can imagine. It's like if something like editorial or Pythonista went away for me. I can only imagine being email such an essential piece of your. You communicate with a lot of people. You have to manage a lot of people every day for the network. So I can only imagine how big of a problem email is for you.
Because one of the other things that I'm hoping for is a cross-platform solution. Yeah, because that's ideally what I need, just so then I can build a real system. So there's a couple that are promising.
Yes, exactly. Did you see the tweet from the Spark email client about adopting Mailbox-like snoozing? That could be a solution for you.
Yeah, I've seen stuff like that, but the problem is Spark is iPhone only, and
but it's gonna to the iPad and the Mac. Yeah.
But when? Right? It's 2016. They're saying, and AirMail as well. I know it's pretty public. They have an iPhone app in beta, but they don't seem to have an iPad app.
Mm-hmm.
And and so that might work, but I want something that's everywhere, because if it's not everywhere, I can't be in on that system, right? So I can't start snoozing stuff in Spark and then trying to use Mail app, because everything will just explode. Mm-hmm. A lot of this stuff, it gets really upset when you move it from platform to platform, because these things are like horrifically hacking the way that IMAP works, right? Like, it's just horrible, the sort of stuff that they're doing to your email. Mm-hmm. So you kind of, if you want to take advantage of these systems, you've got to be all in on that system. So there are some potential contenders, but nobody is really there yet.
I'm optimist, Myke, that you're gonna find the solution within the next, let's say, 6 months. I give you 6 months.
I've most likely changed my system again, like the way I work, because I can't not work for the next 6 months waiting for an email app.
So what's the single feature that you want to be able to have? Is it snoozing? Is it lists? Is it the manual sorting of emails? Like, you gotta pick one feature, because you have so many requirements. I feel like you're not gonna find the perfect mailbox replacement. But maybe if you only pick one feature, maybe you can find that.
I really think, because the snoozing is easier for me to deal with. because a lot of the stuff that I snooze emails for is just for convenience. So I could get used to just going in and checking in folders, right? That isn't a difficult thing to do. But the reordering of email, there's no way for me to do that. I either can do it or I can't do it. So I think that's probably the main feature that I'm looking for.
I mean, it happens with any third-party thing, right? Like we talk about what would the world be like without Twitter? Well, we may find out one day. This stuff doesn't always last forever. And I think the best bet for something like this is to find something that does it as part of their service and not rely on a third party like Mailbox or any of these other mail clients. Mail clients seem like a really hard business to be in. So I do some of this sorting, but I do it all in Gmail rules and filters. And so like my relay inbox would be crazy without this just catacomb of mail rules that I have set up to sort things into folders as they come in and mark them as read. And it can help, but yeah, I mean, if reordering or things like that are what you want, then it's going to be harder to find it, I think.
Yeah, and setting up filters and rules and all that stuff sounds kind of horrific, right? Like it just sounds like an epically difficult thing to try and work out, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we'll see. Maybe I can get there at some point, but I think it's going to be a tough road back. But there is still some more that I want to talk about in regards to this and kind of Dropbox as a company and kind of understanding what's going on there. Because clearly they've made these changes for a reason. But before we do that, let me take a moment to thank our friends over at Foot Cardigan for supporting this week's episode. A subscription to Foot Cardigan will get your favorite person one pair of fun, amazing, beautiful, whimsical socks delivered to their mailbox every month. Yes, this is that sock subscription service you've heard so much about. But the person that you buy a Foot Cardigan subscription for, they're going to get a gift that keeps on giving. Every single month, for as long as you want, they're going to get these pair of beautiful, whimsical socks delivered right to them. It is the holiday season. It is upon us. And one of the most difficult parts of the holidays is picking out the perfect gift for the people that you know. But Foot Cardigan makes that super simple by giving you something that's really, really unique and just really awesome. It finally makes it awesome to be given socks, right? People hate being given socks over the holidays because they're usually boring. But with Foot Cardigan socks, they're going to be great. And once you subscribe, or you could buy a subscription for somebody that you love, every month that new pair of socks is going to arrive at home. They also have socks for kids as well. They have their Whippersnapper range for ages 3 to 12. And Whippersnappers, you get 2 pairs instead of just 1 pair. So you always procrastinate, right? This is something that everybody does. Every year we procrastinate on a holiday shopping. It's never too late to change that. So you can go and get a Foot Cardigan subscription right now and get that awesome present for that person in your life. Foot Cardigan subscriptions are available for 3, 6, and 9 months prepaid. There's also a month-to-month option as well. Listeners of this show can get 10% off all subscriptions with the code CONNECTED at checkout. Remind your favorite person how awesome you are every month with Foot Cardigan and be the coolest person in your household because you bought some epic socks for the people you love. Thank you so much to Foot Cardigan for their support of this show and Relay FM. All right, so Federico, what do you think is going on at Dropbox?
I feel like they're getting squeezed by all sides, and most of the idea of the core Dropbox service is now available in the products and in the devices as a feature of the iPhone, of Android phones, and every company is into file storage now. You can have Apple, Amazon, Google, Microsoft even, and I feel like Dropbox started as a very simple idea, and they built a business on top of this idea. But now the basic feature, which is storage in the cloud with integration with your smartphone and tablets and computers, is now available elsewhere as well. Now, I am a Dropbox user and I use the service every day, and I feel like Dropbox still has many details and features, little differences that other companies don't get exactly right. There's a simplicity and almost all the integrations that Dropbox has with third-party apps. I cannot find those features in other solutions. I cannot I don't trust iCloud Drive as much as I trust Dropbox, because Dropbox lets me see versions of my files. It lets me share a file with other people. It lets me share a folder. It lets me view deleted files and restore them. So there's many. So the basic idea is available in other services, which is, you get a X amount of gigabytes in the cloud. But the way that Dropbox does it, it's still, in my opinion, unique at least for what I do and for what we need to do. So I don't want to see Dropbox going away. But that's not to say that other companies are faster at becoming Dropbox than Dropbox is at, kind of expanding and reaching more customers and more users. And I feel like this continuation of Carousel and Mailbox is sort of a sign of wanting to focus more on the idea of Dropbox. But there's a weird contrast between this news and the upcoming Dropbox paper. I still don't quite understand how focusing on Dropbox and doing paper at the same time works, and I don't know if this paper product will contribute to the bottom line of the company, because that's what the matter is, really. They want to grow the bottom line, as they say. They want to get more customers. They want to get more paying customers. And I don't know if this paper is going to be another nice, good-looking experiment, it's still in beta, or if it's going to be a key feature that you sign up and pay Dropbox for. So I don't know how I feel about Dropbox. I feel like they're a big company now, but they have been, in many ways, over the past 2 years especially, they have been very slow at understanding what's changed. Being a storage company today is different than 2010. You have all these competitors from Apple to Microsoft. You have people communicating in a different way, with Slack and with mobile messaging. It's not the same scenario of 5 years ago. And even if you just look at iOS, Dropbox is being slow at adopting the latest features for multitasking and iOS 9. So I love the company, but it's not changing fast enough, or not changing, evolving and growing fast enough, at least from my user perspective. I have no idea about their finances. But I feel like they should, focusing more is a welcome, change of pace. I'm kind of concerned, or maybe confused, about paper. I really don't know how it fits with the rest of the company, what they want to do. But I guess we'll see, Maybe it'll be discontinued next year.
When I look at paper, it's like, I can see what you're trying to do, but you're claiming to build something like simple, and I don't know if people want like simple. I think if they want anything, they want something that replaces Google Docs, which is complicated and full featured. So while simple can be good, simple means not as many features sometimes, and I don't know if that is a good thing. But it does look pretty, but I can't remember what it was, but like I tried it out and there was just like a bunch of things in there that I needed that it didn't have if we were going to use it for like this, for example, what we're doing right now. There's one other thing that I wanted to touch on before we finish today, which is the public perception of Dropbox after a move like this. Because I know I feel differently about them. Because in my mind now, they've changed from like scrappy upstart to a bigger company. Because like a big company will do this, right? Acquire things, soak up the talent, and then eventually shut them down. And this doesn't seem to have been their intention, but it's what they've done. And it makes Dropbox feel a little bit more like monolithic to me, like this big company, this big entity that's doing this stuff. And part of this, and I think the majority of my feeling towards this, is their use of the word sunsetting everywhere.
Yeah, I know.
Like, they tweeted that the app update subscription for Mailbox said added important sunset information. That was the description. Like, I don't like it when companies talk that way. Like, be open to what you're doing. You're shutting it down. Like, they said that in like some of their email communication, but a lot of their public facing stuff, they're saying they're sunsetting this product. Like, it's a really bad buzzword, and it's not something that people understand because it doesn't make any sense, because the word is created to try and put a positive spin on a negative thing. So it just doesn't make any sense. And then there's a little banner in the app now that says Mailbox will be shut down in X days. Like, why didn't they go with shutdown everywhere? They chose the shutdown verbiage in certain places and then sunsetting in others. I think moves like this are bad marketing moves, and they ding a company's perception. And now, any company that uses the term sunsetting gets a little check in my brain, because I just think it's a disgusting word to use for what you're actually doing.
It's one of those words you would hear from the Silicon Valley TV show. It's almost like a parody, really.
Yeah. Like, what it is a sleight of hand trick, right? They're like, hey, look over here. We're using this lovely little word. People like sunsets, right? You like sunsets? Closed.
Yeah, they're trying to use this beautiful, evocative, poetic image of a sunset to really communicate that a bunch of people have lost their jobs and a product is gone.
Yeah. I don't know. In this scenario, if people have lost their jobs, it seems that they've actually just sucked up those engineers or people left Dropbox. That's how it seems anyway. Because I haven't seen anything that people left or lost their jobs. And basically what it seems like is it was in maintenance mode and then got shut down. So what I assumed is Dropbox just had what I assume is they just got a bunch of talented developers and moved them onto different parts of the team that are more important to them at the time. But I just really wish that they didn't say sunsetting.
Yeah.
Makes me sad, Federico.
I agree. Sad as a sunset, Myke.
Dropbox is ruining sunsets for me now. Every evening now, I just think about the fact that my email is going away.
I can picture the scene. You're just gonna be holding your girlfriend's hand on top of a hill in London, looking at the sunset, and all you can think about is Dropbox and Mailbox.
A single tear runs down my face, and she turns to me and she's like, "This sunset, it makes you emotional?" And I was like, "No, darling, I'm thinking about my email."
Think of all those emails, all of those snoozes, Myke. They're all gone forever, and they're not coming back.
We can all look forward to Snoozepocalypse on February 26th. If you want to find our show notes for this week's episode, head on over to relay.fm/connected/69. You can also find links on that page to become a member of Relay FM and give your money to this show. If you love this show, we would appreciate that. If you want to find us online, head over to the following places: macstories.net for Federico's writing, 512pixels.net for Stephen's. And you can find us all on Twitter. Federico's at Viticci, Viticci. Stephen is at ISMH, and I am at iMyke, IMYKE. Thanks again to our sponsors for this week's episode, the great people over at Foot Cardigan, Casper, and Braintree. Most of all, thank you for listening, and we'll be back next time. Until then, say sunset, everybody. We're sunset in this show.
Tramonto.
Beautiful.